Okay, everybody, so I'm going to show you how you can design your own social science web survey experiment quickly and easily. Anyone can do this totally for free and produce proper scientific knowledge about a cause and effect relationship. We are going to use a platform called SurveyGizmo, which is an excellent platform for designing all different kinds of surveys for web usage. And they have very sophisticated functionality that allows you to design an experiment within the survey. Okay, so this is professional quality survey design, and professional quality usually requires you to pay for it. And SurveyGizmo does have paid accounts, but they generously offer a 7-day free trial. So this is going to be how anyone can do their own social science survey for free, as long as you can do it within 7 days. And there's no reason that you can't. For all intents and purposes, most surveys that most people would be interested in doing, you can easily design, implement in 7 days, and then download the data to analyze it in the future at your own convenience. As long as you can do all of that in 7 days, then you have total access to SurveyGizmo functionality to do your own social science survey experiment. Okay, so all you need for this tutorial is to start a free trial with SurveyGizmo. You just give them your email, and then you're good to go with all of their functionality for 7 days. All right, so assuming that you have an email, you're going to log in, and the page is going to look like this. Before we get into how to actually design the survey, let's talk a little bit about the example experiment that I'm going to show you today to walk you through designing a survey experiment. We're going to do a very simple experimental design called the two-group post-test only design. It's sort of the most straightforward form of experimental design out there. Very simple. You have a bunch of people take your survey, but when that survey is given to them, you have the computer automatically assign half of the people randomly to a particular survey experience, and then the other half are randomly assigned to a different survey experience. Okay? One group we call the treatment group, the other group we call the control group. And basically what we do is at the end of each survey, no matter what survey experience you were assigned to, you answer some questions. Those are the questions that we're interested in measuring variation in, right? That would be sort of the dependent variable, the thing that we're trying to explain. So the logic is that if the average result on those final measured questions is different on average for the treatment group relative to the control group, then we can be fairly confident that that's because of the different survey experience that they were given. Okay? And that's the basic logic of an experiment, and that's the basic design of a two-group post-test only experimental design. In particular, I'll tell you a little bit about the idea or the hypothesis that we're going to test. It's going to be a very simple framing experiment, right? So social scientists know that the way you word policy choices or different kinds of political questions has a significant effect often on what people think about the policy or the position that is being talked about. So in particular, I'm very curious about one framing issue that has a lot of salience right now at the moment. Donald Trump, the new president-elect of the United States, has not discounted or distanced himself explicitly from the idea that there should perhaps be a registry for all Muslims in the United States. So this is a very controversial policy proposal, in part because, as a lot of critics in the media are mentioning right now, this is frighteningly reminiscent of the registry that the Nazi Party and Adolf Hitler implemented to track and identify Jews in Nazi Germany before the Holocaust. Okay? So I'm interested in whether or not this framing, this comparison to Hitler, actually makes people less supportive of the policy or more supportive of the policy. So there are reasons to think that it could make people less supportive if the comparison to Hitler makes them see how dangerous and possibly bad this policy is. I personally tend to think it's quite bad, but that's just my own personal bias or viewpoint. But some people might think that, actually this is a very reasonable policy, and the comparison to Hitler is not only stupid and unfounded, but perhaps even offensive, or rhetorically manipulative. In which case, it's conceivable that such people might actually find that comparison to make them more interested in defending the proposed policy of a registry. Okay? So it could go both ways, and that's kind of an ideal type of theoretical situation for an experiment, when you can imagine it going one of two ways. The only way to really find out is to conduct a proper experiment to see how people actually respond to this framing compared to a framing in which that comparison is not made, right? So, okay, here's how we're going to test that hypothesis. Once you log into SurveyGizmo, you have a page that looks like this. If you go to Build right here, that will allow us to design our survey. So the survey design works in pages. You have multiple pages. It starts with page 1, and then it kind of gives you a default closing page that thanks the respondents for taking the survey. Okay. What we're going to do to design our experiment is we need to basically design a flow of the survey, and then we need to tell SurveyGizmo to randomly assign the respondents to the control and the treatment groups. Okay, so the way that we do that is we're just going to make one page or one question or text, whatever it is you want them to be exposed to for the treatment group, and then also make something for the other group. You make it all in one survey flow, and then we're going to tell SurveyGizmo to only show one of the experiences to the control group, and then only show one of the experiences to the other group. Okay, so that will all make sense just as I walk you through it practically. So first thing we'll do is we want to basically give the control group a certain framing, and then we want to give the treatment group a different framing. So we need to give them the an actual statement of text to make them respond to it. So let's start with text media here. When you click it, it will give you the opportunity to fill in your text. And I've already sort of drafted these different texts, so I have them on hand. I'll just paste them in. Here we have the control text. Okay, this is just a simple statement, as unbiased as possible, about this proposed policy. Okay, that's really all there is to it. There are all these different options, but you don't have to worry about them for now. So just go ahead and save that. Okay, so that's the first thing they're going to see. Now what we want to do is add another text bit, and this will be the treatment text. Okay, so we're putting all this into one survey flow, but then we're afterwards going to tell it to only show pieces to the two different groups. Okay, so here we are going to paste in the treatment, which is the same thing as the control, but with a reference to Hitler and the Nazi regime. Okay, so it's literally the same exact text, but there's one sentence added at the end that refers to how critics have made this comparison to the Nazi registry for Jews. Okay, go ahead and save that. So here we have two different text snippets. Why don't we just go ahead and make the dependent variable, and then we'll show how to do the random assignment afterwards. Next, what we need is we need to make a question that's going to measure their attitude towards this policy, right? So we go to question, and in this case, I'm going to propose that we use a slider, which allows people to place their opinion about something on a scale from 0 to 100, or however you want to define the terms. You have all these different possible question formats, which can be really useful. And there are different debates about, which type of question format you should use in a situation such as this one. Some people might say you should use a Likert scale. We're just going to do this because lends itself to easy analysis at the end for students or organizations or activists or whatever who might just be starting out with experimental methods. So just select slider, and here we will put in the question that I already designed. It just says, on a scale from 0 to 100, use the sliding scale below to indicate your opinion about this proposal. Okay, you can design what the slider actually looks like. So we might here put in strongly opposed on the left, right? Middle might be neither opposed nor supportive, and then the right might be strongly supportive. Okay. Yes, you can set the scale. 0 to 100 is fine. Increment of 1 is fine. All right. So just go ahead and save. In this case, this is going to be our only question. So why don't we also go ahead and remove that number 1? This will allow me to show you some options too. If you go to edit, you can change these things in these different options. In particular, ours is going to be in layout here. You go to skip numbering for this question. Okay. All right. So there's a little bit of a problem in that we're not giving people an option to say they don't know or don't understand. So in some sense that might lead to some error, but this is just to show the basic flow of how to do a survey experiment. So here we have the basic rudiments for a survey experiment. We have a treatment text and a control text. Or I'm sorry, this is the treatment and this is the control. And then we have a survey instrument used to measure the dependent variable. In this case, attitudes towards the policy. All right, now what we need to do is basically tell SurveyGizmo that when people take the survey, half of them have to be randomly sorted into only seeing this text. And the other half have to be randomly sorted into only seeing this text. But they all need to see this item, measuring the dependent variable. That's the basic idea. So to do that, and this is the key step, you have to add into the survey what SurveyGizmo calls an action. And you can add a survey action, which sort of works behind the scenes of the survey, anywhere you want between any of these items. To do so, just hover the mouse cursor right above where you want there to be, right above the question where you want there to be an action inserted, and go to action. So it lets you do a bunch of tricky things. For us, and for the purpose of random assignment, the key step in an experimental approach, we want this one here called %branch. Okay, and that basically just allows us to tell SurveyGizmo what percentage of the respondents we want sorted into whatever number of different survey flows that we want to design. Okay, so just go to add. All right, and this is very simple. You're allowed to set up what they call branches, and each branch is a different survey experience. Okay, in our case, it's very simple. We only have one treatment section and one control section or item. So branch A, let's call that control, right? And let's add another branch called treatment, okay? And now we have to tell them what percentage of the respondents go into each category. So treatment, in our case, we only have one control and one treatment condition. So we'll just do 50% will be randomly sorted into the treatment condition. And then if you go to control, we're also going to change this to 50%. Okay? All right. So now we've set up two branches, and now we need to tell SurveyGizmo what should be the experience in the survey for each branch, for each respondent that is randomly assigned into each branch or survey experience. Okay. We want the branch to be applied to everyone. Okay. So here we're going to define the conditions for the control. So we are going to include new %branch. Click show. And in this case, we want the first text without the comparison to Hitler to be shown. Remember, here we're defining the control only. But we want this one, which represents the treatment condition, to not be shown. All right? We do want the item measuring the dependent variable here to be shown. And then we do want them to get the final page thanking them for taking the survey. All right? Now, we need to define a different experience for the treatment group. So go to treatment, and now we can do that. So we do want them to be sorted, into the random assignment function here called branching. But we do not want them to receive what the control group received. So this one should be hidden. We do want them to receive this question, which is this one down here, the longer one comparing the registry policy to Hitler. So click show. And we do want them to be measured on the dependent variable. And we do want them to get the final page. Okay? So that's all there is to it. We basically just designed a web survey experiment with random assignment. And now all we have to do is send this out to people. Ideally, you'd have a random representative sample of the larger population you're interested in making inferences about. But for many students, you won't be able to do that if you can just get a bunch of people to take your survey. If you have enough of them, it's sort of what we would call a convenience sample. And although it won't necessarily generalize, it can still be interesting and informative. And the causal effect is still arguably, a scientific finding. Okay. Real quick, I guess I'll show you one thing you should do is test the survey. So if you go to test up here, you can take it and make sure that everything looks right. All right. We will, all right, let's see. They found a potential issue. Let's take a look at that. They're worried this is not accessible, but let's take a look and see. You go to manually test your survey, and it will show you what the respondents are going to see. So here it looks like we were randomly assigned into the control group. We're just told about the policy and then asked how much we support it. So let's say we are totally balanced, 50, click submit. We get this confirmation. All right. Now if we take it again, we were randomly assigned into the control. Eventually we should be randomly assigned into the treatment. Okay. All right, again, our luck just has it this way. Finally. All right, we were randomly assigned into the treatment. Same statement, but with the comparison to Hitler at the end. All right, we'll go ahead and submit this. Now, okay, we've tested it. It all looks good enough. Keep in mind, people, this is not the most sophisticated experiment. I'm just showing you kind of quick and dirty tutorial about the logic of how it works and how to set it up. If I was, doing an experiment that I would seek, to publish in a scientific journal, I would certainly put way more care into, all of these things. All right. One thing I noticed is that the survey name could be a little bit better. It's just called new survey. Let's call it perhaps, just call it survey experiment on, maybe we'll call it public opinion, whatever. We want to be kind of vague because we don't want people to know exactly what we're testing, but on the other hand, we don't want to mislead, and we do want to let people know that, this is a survey experiment. Another, thing I should say is that if you're going to do a survey experiment, you really want to have a kind of participant information form at the beginning and a consent sheet at the beginning, where people sort of understand what they're doing and they explicitly consent to, going on this survey experiment that you're giving them. Okay. Again, I'm just doing this quick and easily to show you the basic logic of it. All right. So once you've done that, you can also, this is the last thing I'll show you, is get your results. So if you go to individual responses, this will show you how many people have taken it, a basic kind of table format. But we will want to download that data to do proper analysis of the data, a proper kind of statistical approach to seeing whether or not, on average, the measurement on the dependent variable is different for the treatment group relative to the control group. All right, so if you do export selected to CSV, it'll take a minute. And once you get that spreadsheet downloaded, then you can do all of the traditional statistical tests depending on what your dependent variable is. In our case, a simple comparison of the means of the two groups would be the easiest and most basic way to see whether or not our treatment had an effect relative to the control group. All right. Obviously, these were just test responses that we did ourselves. Obviously, you'd want to delete those, okay, and then send it out to your subjects, whoever they might be. So you can delete these here, and once you delete these, then go to share. And there are a few different ways you can do it, through email or just by giving the link, okay? So if you just copy that link and send it out to emails, post it on message boards, wherever it is you're trying to recruit your sample of subjects. Just give them that link and that will take them to the survey. Here we can do a quick test to see what it looks like. This is what someone will get. That's simple. All right. That's all there is to it.